Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week, and if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Today I'll be teaching how to make a cable stitch hoodie. One can never have too many hoodies, so here we go. We've got our classic cable, an Alpine sleeve detail for extra texture since the middle detail wasn't enough, and an Alpine hood to tie it all together, because, we love hoods. Speaking of, if you love hoodies, you are in the right place. We have tons of hoodie patterns plus more on the way, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 500 grams of yarn, and that's 1,000 yards if you're stateside. As the tools, a 5 and 6 millimeter hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order. Enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if you prefer your ice cream in a cone or in a cup. Now, I eat kind of slow, so I prefer it to be in a cup because otherwise it'll melt all over my hands, and I don't like being sticky. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 6 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, and double treble crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small. You can adjust it for your size, so I explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 5 millimeter hook, and we're all going to start by making an even number chain that is the width of the base of our neck. Now I need a total of 6 inches or 15 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 24. Now that we have our chain, we are going to block off that last chain and do a chain 2. Now that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. That's our turning chain, and our first row for our cable stitch detail is at half double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, with 1 half double crochet, and that's it. Let's do the next one. Yarn over into that next chain, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain, and as a quick tip, we should end up with the same amount of half double crochets as chains made. Our row 1 is finished, and our row 2 is another half double crochet row. So all we're going to do is chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch, and again we should have the same amount of stitches as chains made. Our row 2 is finished. Now let's get started on our row 3, or our first cable stitch row, so let's all chain 2 and flip our work. We're going to get started on our first cable stitch detail. So what we're going to do is start with a yarn over of 3, and that is preparing us for a front post double treble crochet. So let's all yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. Now from here, since we're working on our row 3, for every cable stitch row we're going to be inserting our hook into our previous odd number row. So that's going to be our row 1 when we're working on our row 3. So what we're going to do, taking a look at our row 1, we're going to count out the first 2 half double crochets, not counting that chain 2. So here's 1, here's 2. We're going to be skipping those first 2 half double crochets, and then into that following half double crochet we are going to insert our hook. So we're going to skip 1, skip 2, underneath that third, and bring your hook through the other side of the body of that half double crochet. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now for our cable stitch detail, every stitch is going to be worked in sets of 2. So we're going to be doing one more front post double treble crochet into that following stitch into our row 1. So yarn over 1, 2, 3 times again, and bring our hook down underneath that following half double crochet from our row 1. So down and through the other side. Yarn over and pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now from here we're going to be working into those 2 skipped stitches. Into each of those is another front post double treble crochet. So yarn over once, 2, 3 times, and working into that first half double crochet from our row 1, not counting that chain 2, we're going to bring our hook down underneath that first stitch and through the other side, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then another front post double treble crochet into that following skip stitch. So again, yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. Into that last skipped stitch, bring your hook down underneath the body of that last half double crochet, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now we have the first 4 stitches for our cable finished up, and we're going to finish it off with one front post treble crochet into each of the following 2 stitches. So now we're going to yarn over twice, find that following stitch from our row 1, bring our hook down underneath and through the other side. Then yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then another front post treble crochet into that following. So yarn over twice. Bring your hook down underneath that following stitch, pull through 2, 2, 2, and now our cable stitch detail is all finished. Now right before we get started on our Alpine stitch detail, it will be framed with front post treble crochets, and that is going to be our dividing stitch, and that's just going to separate our cables from our middle Alpine stitch detail. So just to do that, yarn over twice again, and into that following stitch from our row 1, bring your hook down underneath, pull through 2, 2, and 2. And now that our cable stitch detail is all finished up, we're going to get started on our middle Alpine stitch detail. So we're all going to start, no matter what size we're making, we're all going to start by counting out 7 stitches from our previous row and then half double crocheting into that 8th stitch. And we are counting out 7 stitches because we just did a total of 7 stitches here for our cable. So counting this out together, here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then into the 8th, insert with 1 half double crochet. Now our Alpine stitch detail stitch sequence is a half double crochet and then a front post double crochet. So since we just did our half double, yarn over just once, preparing for our front post double. We are then going to be inserting our hook into our row 1. So taking a look at our row 1, we are going to skip that first available half double crochet that we have, because the half double crochet that we just did counts as that stitch. But into that following half double crochet, we're going to insert our hook underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side, pull through. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, we're going to pull our work up tall to get the same height as that half double crochet, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that is our first Alpine stitch set. So let's do that again. Yarn over once, we're going to insert our hook into that following stitch. So we are going to skip that first stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch, and then into that next, insert with a half double, and then a front post double. So yarn over. Skip that following stitch from our previous odd number row because that half double crochet counts as that stitch, and then underneath that following, insert your hook underneath, through the other side, and pull through. Pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. That is our second Alpine stitch set. Let's just do one more a little bit faster. So yarn over. Skip 1 stitch from our previous row because this front post double counts as that stitch. Into the following, insert with a half double, and then yarn over, finding that next available stitch from our previous odd number row, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, and pull through 2. We should all now have 1, 2, 3 Alpine stitch sets. And we're going to continue to do our half double crochet and front post double crochet until we have a total of 7 stitches left. Then I'll meet you back so we can finish it up with our cable. So my Alpine stitch detail is all finished, and now we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches left. Now it is technically 8 stitches, but we're not going to count that last stitch because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch. Now let's finish off this row with our cable stitch detail. Now, like I said, framing our Alpine stitch detail, it is always going to be framed with front post treble crochets, so we're going to yarn over twice. Into that following stitch from our previous odd number row, bring your hook underneath, through the other side, and pull through. Then yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And now for our cable stitch detail, the left is going to mirror the right. So how we're going to start row 3's left cable stitch detail is going to start with 2 front post treble crochets. So yarn over twice, find that following stitch from our previous odd number row, bring your hook underneath, through the other side, pull through 2, 2, 2, and one more, since we don't count that first front post treble crochet into our cable, that's just our dividing stitch. So into that following stitch, yarn over twice, bring your hook underneath and through the other side, pull through. We're all going to yarn over, pull through 2, 2, 2. So all together we should have 1 front post treble, which is our dividing stitch, and then 2 front post treble crochets after that. Now we're going to get started on our twist. So yarn over 1, 2, 3 times, preparing for a front post double treble crochet, and taking a look at our row 1, we're going to count in from the left, 1, 2. Into that second to last stitch, we're going to insert with a front post double treble crochet, or we're just going to be skipping the following 2 stitches. So we're going to skip 1, skip 2, into that following stitch, which is the second to last, bring your hook underneath, through the other side, and pull through. Then per usual, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Another front post double treble crochet into that following stitch, which is the last one from our previous odd number row. So yarn over 3 times and insert your hook underneath the last half double crochet from our previous row. So bring your hook underneath and through the other side. Yarn over, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, 2, 2, and 2. And now from here we're going to be working into those 2 skip stitches that we made when we did our 2 previous stitches, but now working in through that window that we just made for ourselves. So what we're going to do is yarn over 3 times. There's 1, 2, 3, preparing for a front post double treble crochet. And all we're going to do is hang on to a working yarn because it can very easily fall off, and bring our hook down towards us. Next we're going to find those 2 skip stitches in through that window that we just made. So here's mine, here's 1, here's 2. Inserting your hook underneath that first one, bring your hook around it and through the other side, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. And then from there, this is what our twist should look like, and we're going to be doing 1 more into that last skip stitch. But since this is the last stitch from the row, it will be combined with a half double. So it's going to start off the same, do a yarn over of 3. Hang on to our working yarn and pull our work down, finding that last skip stitch from our previous row. Bring your hook underneath, through the other side, and pull through. From here, we're going to continue to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. When we have those 2 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. Then we're going to bring our hook down and into the last stitch from our previous row. Yarn over and pull through. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4. So yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops, and our row 3, or our first cable stitch row, is complete. Now every even number row is going to be a half double crochet row. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain 2, flip our work, and 1 half double crochet into every stitch, and it will still have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. So we are back. We should all have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows finished. Now let's all get started on our row 5 or our second cable stitch row. So chain 2 and flip our work. So our row 5's first cable is actually going to be a repeat of row 3's left cable. So as a refresher, let's get that started. We're all going to start with a yarn over of 2, preparing for a front post treble crochet. And we're going to start by putting 1 front post treble crochet into the first 2 stitches. So taking a look at our row 3's cable, since we are working on row 5, like I said, every cable stitch row is going to be worked into our previous odd number row, which now are the cable stitch rows. We're going to bring our hook down and find that first stitch from our cable stitch, making sure that we're not working into that chain 2. So bring your hook down, through the other side, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, 2, 2, and then into that following available stitch, you may need to pull it apart just a smidge, another front post treble crochet, so yarn over twice. Into that next stitch, insert your hook and through the other side, pull through 2, 2, 2, and now we're going to skip the following 2 stitches and put 1 front post double treble crochet into each of those. So yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. We're all going to skip 1, skip 2, and then into that following stitch, bring your hook underneath and through the other side, pull through, and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook again. And then 1 more front post double treble crochet into that following stitch. So yarn over 3 times, insert your hook underneath, through the other side, and yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Now from here, we're going to be working into those 2 skip stitches that we made into that window that we just made for ourselves. So let's all yarn over 1, 2, 3 times again. Hang on to your working yarn and bring your hook down. We're all going to start by finding those 2 skip stitches in through that window. This is my first and this is my second. I'm going to insert my hook underneath my first skip stitch and through the other side. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, 2, and 2. Now that is the twist for our row 5's right cable. We have 1 more stitch left to do, so yarn over 1, 2, 3 times again. Hang on to your working yarn and bring your hook down. Finding that last skipped stitch, bring your hook down and underneath that stitch through the other side. Pull through and yarn over, pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. And now this is our cable stitch detail all finished up. Now we are always going to finish the cable stitch detail off with a front post treble crochet or our dividing stitch, so yarn over twice, bring your hook underneath that stitch, through the other side, pull through 2, 2, and 2. Now that is our row 5's right cable and dividing stitch finished. Now let's do our Alpine stitch detail. So when it comes to doing our Alpine stitch detail, we're still going to be working into our previous odd number row, which in this case, since we're working on row 5, we're going to be inserting our hook into our row 3. And our stitches are going to be staggered. So doing this really quickly, our first stitch from our previous Alpine stitch row is a half double crochet. We're now going to be putting 1 front post double crochet into that stitch. So yarn over, bring your hook down and through the other side, pull through. Again, when we have those 3 loops on our hook, pull up tall, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Now our following stitch from our previous Alpine stitch detail is a front post double crochet. So all we're going to do is put 1 half double crochet into the top of that stitch. We're all going to start by skipping the first 8 stitches from our previous row, and that is due to the cable stitch detail plus the 1 front post double crochet that we just did. So counting that out together, we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then half double crochet into that 9th stitch. And that's our first Alpine stitch detail for our row 5. Let's do the next one. Yarn over. We're all going to find the half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch detail. Bring our hook down and through the other side. Yarn over, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, and then a half double crochet. So yarn over once again. We are still going to be skipping that first stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch. And then into the next, insert with a half double. And that's it. We're going to continue to do our Alpine stitch detail until we have the same amount of sets as our previous Alpine stitch set. So we are back. Now our row 5's left cable is going to be a repeat of our row 3's right cable. So let's get this one started. We are going to always frame our Alpine stitch detail with our dividing stitch, which is a front post treble crochet, so yarn over twice. Bring your hook down and just underneath that following stitch, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, 2, and 2. Now let's do our cable. Now this is going to start with a yarn over of 3. We're going to skip the first 2 stitches from our previous row and insert our hook underneath that following stitch with 1 front post double treble. And then into that following with another front post double treble crochet. Now that we have those 2 stitches finished, we're now going to be working into those 2 skip stitches. So 1 front post double treble crochet into each of those as well. So yarn over 3 times, working into that first skip stitch, insert your hook, pull through, and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. And then another front post double treble crochet into that following skipped stitch. So through, pull through 2, 2, 2, and 2. Now that is that. We're going to close off our cable stitch detail for our row 5 with 1 front post treble crochet, and then into the last stitch a front post treble crochet that is combined with a half double because we need to secure down this edge. So yarn over twice, insert your hook into that following stitch or the second to last stitch from our previous cable stitch row, bring our hook down through the other side, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. And then from here we're going to be doing another front post double treble crochet, but now, like I said, combined with a half double. So yarn over twice. We're going to find the last stitch from our previous row, insert your hook underneath that stitch and through the other side, pull through, and now we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 2 loops left on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. When we have those 2 loops on our hook, yarn over, insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row, pull through for 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 4. Now our row 5 is complete. Now, like I said in the previous clip, every even number row is going to be a half double crochet row. So chain 2, flip your work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch. We are back. Our first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows are all finished up. This is going to be a repeat of rows 3 through 6, so let's chain 2, flip our work, and take a look at the front. So like I said, this is going to be a repeat of rows 3 through 6. All of those timestamps for each section will be linked in the description if you need a quick refresher, but all we're going to do for our row 7 is start with a repeat of our row 3 and continue repeating those rows until we get the length of the front panel that we want. So all we're going to do is place this first row that we made where we want the bottom of our sweater to be. I want mine to be cropped, so I'm going to be placing mine roughly around my waist, but keeping in mind that we will have a bottom band as well. But if you would like for your entire sweater to be longer, place this wherever you'd like for the bottom to be, so at your hips or a little longer, whatever. And we're going to continue to repeat these rows until this makes our way all the way up and reaches the base of our neck, making sure that we all end right after a cable stitch row. Once we do, I will meet you guys back so we can get started on the side panels, but I just want to get started on the following row with you just to make sure we got everything down. So, working on a row 7 is going to be a repeat of our row 3, so let's all yarn over 3 times. So as a quick refresher, we're going to be skipping the first 2 stitches from our previous cable stitch row. Into that third, we're going to insert with 1 front post double treble crochet, and another front post double treble crochet into that following stitch. Then 1 front post double treble crochet into the 2 skip stitches, 1 front post treble crochet into each of the following 2 stitches, and then our dividing stitch, which is always going to be a front post treble crochet. And that's it. I will meet you back when we have the length of our cable stitch detail finished. I am back with the height of my cable stitch detail. I have a total of 39 rows and my height is just about 11.5 inches or 29 centimeters. And now we're going to get started on the front panel working on the neckline. So from where we're at, we all should have ended right after a cable stitch row. We are now going to be switching out our hook to our 6mm hook, and then we're going to work into the side of our cable stitch detail. So it's all chain 1. So what we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into every side row. So let's all start by finding our first side row, and this is mine right here. I'm going to insert in through that top loop and insert with just 1 single crochet. This is my following side row right here. Into that top loop, insert with another single crochet. Let's do this again. This is my following side row. Insert in through there with one single, and then into my following side row, which is this one right here, another single. And we're just going to continue with one single crochet into every side row. And just as a quick tip, we should have the same amount of stitches as rows that we made for our cable stitch detail. Alright, so our single crochet row is all finished up. Now getting started on our following row, we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work. And all we're going to do is put one back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one so we can do an increase together. So we're all going to yarn over, find that last stitch from our previous row, insert in through that back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Let's do that again. Yarn over into that next stitch's back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, insert your hook with a half double, and continue with one back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one. We've made our way down with one back loop half double crochet into every stitch. Now into the last stitch, we're going to do an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets. So all together, let's yarn over into that last back loop with 1, and then into that same back loop with 2 half double crochets. We just finished up our second row for our side panel. Getting started on our row 3, chain 2 and flip your work. Since we are along the top, we're going to start this following row with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets as well. So yarn over into that last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop with 1 half double, into that same back loop with a second half double, then 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. From here we will be repeating these 2 previous rows. So at the end of this row, chain 2, flip our work, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch while doing an increase of 2 back loop half doubles into that last stitch. And the row after that is going to start with an increase of 2 back loop half doubles and 1 back loop half double into every stitch. We are going to continue to repeat these 2 rows until we have a neckline portion that can reach to mid collarbone. So making sure that when you place this up to yourself, your cable stitch detail is at mid chest and the point that we have is aligned with mid collarbone. Then I will meet you back right after we finish up an even number row or along the top. Alright, so I am back with the neckline portion of my side panel. I only have a total of 4 rows. This width for just the neckline side panel that I have is just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, or my total width is 7 inches or 18 centimeters. Since we all should have ended along the top, what we're going to do now is make a chain that can reach all the way up to the top of our shoulder, making sure that we're placing this last cable stitch row where we want the depth of our collar to be. So I placed mine roughly about where the bottom of my collarbone was. And I've already made my chain. I needed a total of 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. So I made a chain 12. And all we're going to do from here is more half double crochet rows until we get the width of our shoulder. So from here, we're all going to block off that last chain, chain 2, and then into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, insert with a half double crochet. So go ahead and insert your hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. Once we reach the normal stitches of the body, 1 back loop half double crochet into each of those. Then at the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. And we're just going to continue on with our back loop half double crochet row with no increases and no decreases until this reaches the tip of our shoulder, and I'll meet you back along the bottom of our piece, then we can get started on our underarm. So I am back and I have just finished up my shoulder portion. Now I have a total of 13 rows and my width is 4.5 inches or 10 centimeters, or my total width is 10.5 inches or 27 centimeters. Now from here we're going to be inserting our stitch marker into a stitch that we have that's nearest to the corner of our underarm. I've inserted my stitch marker into the 23rd stitch from the top, and that's just about 6 inches or 15 centimeters. Now getting started on our underarm, what we're going to do, since we should all be along the bottom, we're all going to chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch until we have 2 stitches left before our stitch marker. We are back with our first underarm row. We have made our way all the way up, leaving 2 stitches right before our stitch marker. Now we're going to do a decrease of 2 back loop half double crochets. Let's all yarn over and insert our hook into that second to last back loop, pull through into that following stitch's back loop, pull through for a total of 4 loops on our hook. Then yarn over and pull through all 4 loops, and that is how we do our decrease of 2. Now our following row is going to start with a decrease of 2 back loop half doubles, so let's all chain 2 and flip our work. To do our decrease again, we're all going to yarn over. Insert your hook into that last stitch from our previous row's back loop, pull through, into that following stitch's back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops, and then put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. And that's pretty much it for this portion. At the end of this row, we're going to chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 2, and then do a decrease of 2 back loop half double crochets into those last 2 stitches. The row after that is going to be exactly the same as this one. So start the row with a decrease of 2 back loop half doubles, and then 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. We are going to continue to repeat these 2 rows until this portion that we have can reach over to mid underarm. When we have the underarm portion that we want, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you back to get started on the other side. So I am back and my underarm portion is all finished. I just did 2 rows for my underarm, giving me a total of 15 rows for my side panel. Now my width is just about 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters, or my total width is 11.5 inches or 29 centimeters, and now from here we're going to get started on the other side. So what we're going to do on this side is we're going to turn our work over on its side and insert our 6mm hook into the bottom corner stitch of our cable stitch detail. Then we're going to do our single crochet row, so still 1 single crochet into every side row, and I'll meet you back at the top. So now that our single crochet row is finished, we're going to get started on our first back loop half double crochet row. So we're going to chain 2 and flip our work. And since we will be starting along the top, we're going to start our following row with an increase. So getting started on our row 2, we're all going to yarn over, insert our hook into that first stitch's back loop with 2 half double crochets into that first back loop. Then from here, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one, and then close it off with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets into that last stitch. And from here, we're going to continue to repeat these 2 half double crochet rows until we have the same amount of neckline rows as the other side. Now we should end along the bottom once when we do, and then I'll meet you back to show you how we're going to get started on our shoulder. I am back. I have just finished up this side's neckline portion. I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, same as this side, and we all should have ended along the bottom. Now what we're going to do from here is just take our 6mm hook out of this bottom corner stitch. I'm not going to do a chain up of 1 and cut because I strongly dislike having to weave in tail ends, so I'm just going to leave this here and reinsert my hook, remembering this is the same 6mm hook, into the top corner stitch of our neckline, and then we're going to make the same chain that we made as this side. I made a chain 12 over here, so over here I'm going to grab the tail end of my yarn and make a chain 12 and then do a chain up of 1 and cut. So I've just made my shoulder chain and did a chain up of 1 and cut. Now from here I'm going to be reinserting my same 6mm hook into the bottom corner stitch, and then I'm going to do the same amount of shoulder rows that I have on this side. So since we're along the bottom, we're all going to chain 2, flip our work, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, and then 1 half double crochet into every chain. Then at the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch for the same amount of rows as the first shoulder portion. And just to double check our work, making sure that we have the same amount of stitches for this shoulder portion, because the numbers should all match up. Alright, so we are back with this side's shoulder portion. We have the same amount of rows as the other side. Now we're going to get started with our underarm. Now for the second shoulder portion that we did, we all should have ended along the top when we had the same amount of shoulder rows as the other side. So I did do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now from here we're going to do the underarm. So we're all going to start by inserting our stitch marker into the same amount of stitches that we inserted into for the other side. So for those of you that have my numbers, I inserted my stitch marker into the 23rd stitch from the top on the other side, so I did the same thing on this side. Now from here we're going to be inserting our hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our stitch marker stitch, working down towards the bottom. So I'm going to flip my work over, looking at the back. So into the stitch nearest to our stitch marker, working down towards the bottom, I'm going to find that next available stitch and insert in through that back loop. And we're inserting it into the back loop to keep up with the ribbing. We're going to pull through and do a chain 2. Now that chain 2 does not count as a stitch, we just needed the height. And now we're going to get started with our first underarm row. So since we're along the top portion of our underarm, we're going to start with a decrease of 2 back loop half doubles. So yarn over and insert our hook into that same back loop that our chain 2 is in. So insert, pull through, and then into that following stitch, making sure we're working down towards the bottom. Insert, pull through. Yarn over, pull through all 4. And from here, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, we're all going to chain 2, flip our work, put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch again, leaving the last 2, and into the last 2, do a decrease of 2 back loop half doubles. And that's basically it. We're going to continue to do our underarm rows for the same amount of underarm rows that we had for the other side. Once we do a chain up of 1 and cut. So I am back and the entirety of my front panel is finished. My total width is now 16 inches or 41 centimeters, and now we can get started on the back panel. So what we're going to do is make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we have for our last shoulder row. Once we have that, we're going to do back loop half double crochet rows the width that we have from our first shoulder row across to our last shoulder row. Now I already have mine finished up, so I will show you what it looks like. So this is my back panel. Like I said, they're going to be back loop half double crochet rows with absolutely no increases and no decreases for roughly the same width that we have for our front panels shoulder to shoulder. Now just to let y'all know, I have a total of 37 rows. This width is just about 13 inches or 33 centimeters. Once we have the width of our back panel finished up, we're going to do our underarm. Our underarms are going to be the same as the front panel, so I'm just going to talk y'all through it. Now getting started on the first underarm portion, we're all going to start by inserting our stitch marker into the same amount of stitches that we inserted into for the front panel. So for me, that was a total of 23 inches for the front panel, so I inserted mine into the 23rd stitch from the top from my back panel, and the top is going to be the end opposite from our tail end. And then from here, we're going to make our way up with our back loop half double crochet rows, and then into the 2 stitches nearest to our stitch marker, do a decrease of 2 back loop half double crochets. Our following row is going to start with a decrease of 2, so do a decrease of 2 back loop half doubles, 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch for the rest of the row. Then we're just going to continue on with our underarm rows the same way that we did for the front panel for the same amount of rows that we have. Now since I only have 2 rows for my front panel, I will be doing 2 rows for my back panel, and then we will do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then I will meet you guys back just to talk you guys through how to do the other underarm for the back panel. We are back and we have just finished up the underarm for the back panel, and I did do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now let's get started on the other underarm portion, and I actually already have mine all finished up, but this one is going to be done exactly the same way as the second underarm for the front panel. So just as a refresher, we're all going to insert our stitch marker into the same amount of stitches that we skipped for the front panel, so 23 for me. And then from here, we are all going to insert our hook into the stitch that's nearest to our stitch marker, working down towards the bottom. We're going to insert into that back loop, start with a chain 2, that chain 2 does not count as a stitch, and then we're going to do a decrease of 2 back loop half double crochets, 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. And then from there, we're just going to continue on with the underarm portion until we have the same amount of rows as the front panel. Once we do a chain up of 1 and cut. So we are back. The entirety of our back panel is finished, and now we're going to seam everything together. So first things first, we're going to be placing our front panel on top of our back panel, cable stitch faced inwards. Now we're going to be inserting our same 6mm hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Next, we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and we're going to do a single crochet row working in through both the front and the back panel at the same time. So all we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into every side row. This is my first side row right here. I'm going to insert my hook in through that top loop into the front panel, find that first side row within the back panel, insert my hook in through that top loop, and then single crochet around everything. There's 1, let's do the next. This is my following side row. Find that top loop, insert your hook, find that top loop within the side row within the back panel, insert your hook, and single crochet. Let's just do 1 more. Next stitch into the front panel, insert into that top loop, then next stitch into the back panel, insert your hook into that top loop, and single. And we're just going to continue doing this until we don't have any more side rows left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. Alright, so our shoulders are all seamed up. Now we're going to seam up the sides. So we're going to make sure that our work is still flipped wrong side out, meaning the seams that we just did for the shoulders are still along the outside, cable still flipped wrong side out, and we're going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. And now from here we're going to pull our yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now this is going to be another single crochet seam. So start by inserting your hook into that first stitch into the front panel, then into that first stitch into the back panel, and then single crochet. Let's do this again. Into that first stitch into the front panel, first stitch into the back panel, and single. And we're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. Alright, so everything is all seamed up, so let's get started on our sleeve. So let's all flip our work right side out now, meaning the cable stitch that we have is faced up towards us, and we're all going to be inserting our same 6mm hook into the side row that we have that's nearest to our side seam. We are then going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now what we're going to do from here, into every side row that we have, we are going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So making sure that we're working clockwise or to the left, I'm just going to find that top loop and insert my hook with 1 single crochet, and then into my following side row, this is mine right here, insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and then into that same top loop with a second single crochet. Continue alternating between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, and then once we reach our stitches, put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way up and over, closing off our row, working into our side rows the same way that we started off with, and then slip stitch into that chain space. So our first single crochet row is all finished up. Now our following 3 rows are going to be half double crochet rows. But for the first portion of our underarm, we're going to be doing 2 things. One is to help cinch our sleeve just a little bit because it may be a little big once we get down to our wrist, so we're just going to help that out a little bit. And then also we want to get this shoulder portion to curve around our shoulder so that it can lay completely horizontal on our arm so that we don't have any buckling right at the underarm. So for our following row, what we're going to do, no matter what size we're making, with 10 back loop single crochets. So to finish off this, we're going to insert our hook into that chain that we made when we started this row, yarn over, and pull through everything. Now getting started on our following row, we're all going to chain 1 and flip our work. So find that last stitch from our previous row, which is the top of that last single crochet, insert in through that back loop, pull through 2, and again, into that next stitch's back loop, insert, pull through 2. I will meet you back when we all have a total of 10 back loop single crochets. We should all have our 10 back loop single crochets. After the 10, we're now going to do a decrease of 2 back loop single crochets. So into that following stitch, insert your hook in through that back loop, pull through, into that following stitch's back loop, yarn over, pull through, for a total of 3 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Then from here, we will be putting 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last 12 stitches. And those 12 stitches are going to be for the 10 back loop single crochets, plus 2 for the decrease of 2. So we have made our way around with our row 2 or our half double crochet row, and we have left the last 12 stitches, and now we're going to do our decrease of 2 back loop single crochets and then 1 back loop single crochet into the rest of our 10 stitches. So insert your hook into that following stitch's back loop, pull through, next stitch's back loop, pull through all 3, and then 1 back loop single crochet into every stitch. Our row 2 is finished, so we're going to slip stitch into that chain space, chain 1, flip our work, and then repeat. So 10 back loop single crochets for everyone, decrease of 2 back loop single crochets, 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving 12, then a decrease of 2 back loop singles, and then 1 back loop single crochet into the rest of our stitches. We're going to continue on with that for 2 more rows, so I'll meet you back when we have a total of 4 rows finished, and then we can get started on our Alpine stitch detail. Alright, so we are back. We all have a total of 4 rows finished. So this is my first single crochet row. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now getting started on our row 5 is going to be our first Alpine stitch row. So right after we have slip stitched into our chain space, we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work. And when we flip our work, we want to make sure that we are working clockwise or to the left because the Alpine stitches that we're about to do is not reversible. So starting our Alpine stitch row, or our row 5, we're all going to yarn over. We're going to find that first stitch from our previous row and insert with a half double crochet. And then we're going to do our front post double crochet. So every time we do our first Alpine stitch row for our sets of rows that we have, it's going to be worked into our previous row. So yarn over. We're going to find the body of that single crochet from our previous row, insert your hook underneath that stitch, do the other side, pull through, pull up tall to get the same height as the half double crochet, pull through 2, pull through 2. That is our first set. Let's do this again. Yarn over. We are going to skip one stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch, and it may look a little wonky, but we do want to make sure that we're skipping that stitch, otherwise we'll be accidentally increasing. So into that following stitch, insert with a half double crochet, and then another front post double, so yarn over. Finding that next single crochet from our previous row, insert your hook underneath the body and through the other side, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. And that's it. And we're going to continue on with our Alpine stitches, making our way all the way around. We are back. Our first Alpine stitch row, or our row 5, is finished. Now right after our first Alpine stitch row for our row sets, we're going to have a half double crochet row, so this is going to be pretty simple. So just to close off the row, we're all going to slip stitch into that second chain that we made when we started off this row. And from here we're going to do our half double crochet row. So we're going to chain 1. We're all going to start with 1 single crochet into each of the next 10 stitches, 1 half double crochet into every stitch, leaving 10, and then close off the row with 10 single crochets all the way down. Now this row doesn't need to be within the back loops since it is going to be hidden in between our Alpine stitches. So make your way all the way around with your singles, half doubles, and singles again. We have made our way all the way around with our row 6, and now we're going to get started on our row 7, which is our second Alpine stitch row. So we should have all slip stitched into that chain space. Let's chain 2 and flip our work. Now since this is our second Alpine stitch row, it is going to be worked into our previous Alpine stitch row, or our previous odd number row. And just like the Alpine stitch section for the body, our stitches need to be staggered. So we're all going to yarn over, find the first half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch row, do our front post double crochet into there, yarn over, preparing for a half double, skip 1 stitch from the previous row, half double crochet into the next, and again, yarn over, into the half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch row, 1 front post double, skip a stitch, and then half double crochet into the next. And we're going to continue this, making our way all the way around. We are back, and we have made our way all the way around with our second Alpine stitch row, or our row 7. Now from here, the shoulder portion of our sleeve is going to be a repeat of rows 2 through 7. So just as a really quick reminder, our following 3 rows are going to be our half double crochet rows. So each of those rows is going to start with 10 back loop single crochets, then a decrease of 2 back loop singles, 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, then closing off the row, into every stitch leaving 12, then closing off the row with a decrease of 2 back loop singles, and then back loop single crochets. Then our first Alpine stitch row, then our half double crochet row that goes in between our Alpine stitch rows, so that row will be 10 single crochets, half double crochets leaving the last 10 stitches, and then closing off that row with 10 single crochets again. And then the last row in that row repeat is going to be our last Alpine stitch row. We are going to continue to repeat rows 2 through 7 until we have a shoulder portion that can lay horizontally on our arm once when it's worn. I will meet you guys back right after we finish up a repeat of row 7, so our second Alpine stitch row, and then I will show you guys how to do the length of our sleeve. Alright, so I am back and I have just finished up the shoulder portion of my sleeve. When I have this on, the opening lays completely horizontal on my arm, so now we can just go in with the length of our sleeve. So from here, we're still going to maintain our repeats of row 2 through 7. But our half double crochet rows are actually going to be half double crochet rows now, and we don't have to do any more increases or decreases. So what I mean by that is after our second Alpine stitch row, I had a total of 13. We're going to be doing 3 back loop half double crochet rows. They're all going to be back loop half double crochets. They will not have any increases or decreases, and then I will meet you back just to talk you guys through how we're going to do our 2 Alpine stitch rows as well. Okay, so I am back. I have finished up my 1, 2, 3 back loop half double crochet rows, and now we're going to do our Alpine stitch rows. So this is going to be pretty simple, pretty much the same way that we did these Alpine stitch rows over here. So we're going to chain 2, flip our work, and do our first Alpine stitch row. It's going to be done exactly the same way as our other first Alpine stitch rows, and then I'll meet you back. So our first Alpine stitch row is finished. We're going to do our following half double crochet row that goes in between our 2 Alpine stitch rows. So chain 2, flip our work, and 1 half double crochet into every stitch. Our half double crochet row right after our first Alpine stitch row is finished. Now we're going to finish off this set of rows with our second Alpine stitch row. Alright, so our second Alpine stitch row is all finished up, and from here it's going to be a repeat of our previous 6 rows. So after this, it's going to be 3 back loop half double crochet rows, first Alpine stitch row, a half double, and our second Alpine stitch row, and then repeat until we get the length of the sleeve that we want. Once we have the length, I will meet you back so that we can get started on the cuff. I am back, and I have just finished up the length of my sleeve. I have a total of 54 rows, and my length is 17.5 inches or 44 centimeters. And now from here, we're going to get started on the length of our cuff. So from here, we're all going to start by switching back out to our 5mm hook and make a chain the length that we'd like for our cuff to be. So you can make this as long or as short as you'd like. I'd like for mine to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 20, and that's just about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. So now that we have our chain, we are going to block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch. Now we're going to half double crochet into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook. So bring our hook down into that chain. We're going to insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3, and since we all already know how to do our half double crochets, put 1 half double crochet into every chain. We've made our way down with our first half double crochet row, and now we're going to slip stitch it into the base. So let's all start by counting up the next 2 available stitches. So here's 1, here's 2. Into that second stitch, you're going to insert with a slip stitch. To attach this row, that slip stitch does not count as a stitch. Then, in order to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up the next 2 available stitches. So slip stitch up 1, and then also into that next available stitch. None of those slip stitches count as a stitch, and flip our work. And now from here, yarn over, find that first available stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop with a half double crochet, and continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back at the base just once more. We are back, and we should all have 1, 2, 3 rows nearly finished. Now we're just going to connect it into the base, and then we can move on. So just like how we connected our first row, we're going to count up 1, count up 2 stitches. Into that second stitch, insert with a slip stitch. And now our row 3 is finished. To work our way up to our following row, slip stitch up the next 2 available stitches. So there's 1, and there we go, there's 2. Flip our work and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch again. And from here, we're just going to continue to repeat these 2 rows with no increases and no decreases. I'll meet you back when we don't have any more stitches left to work into, so we can seam it all together. Okie dokie, so we made our way all the way around with our back loop half double crochet rows. Now from here, we're going to seam everything up because we don't have any more stitches left to work into. So first things first, we're going to need to make sure that our work is slipped wrong side out, meaning all of the detail that we have is now along the inside, because we want this single crochet seam to be along the inside, kind of like how the shoulders and the seam for the sides are along the inside as well. Then we're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. We're going to pull our yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now this is going to be done exactly the same way as our sides, so just to do the first one, we're going to find that first stitch into the front panel and insert our hook. We're going to find that first stitch into the back panel, insert our hook in through there, and single crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat everything we just did here on the other side. Alright, so both of our sleeves are all finished. The next thing we're going to do is our hood. So let's all make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to be inserting our 5mm hook into any one of the side rows that we have along the neckline for the back panel. We're going to insert our hook, insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and now we're going to get started on our single crochet row. So all we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side half double crochet row. So let's all start by finding our first side row right here. Find that top loop and insert with 1 single crochet. Then find our following side row, insert your hook into that top loop with 2 single crochets. So there's 1 and there's 2, and that's it. We're going to continue alternating between 1 to 2 single crochet into every side row. Once we reach the front panel, we will have some regular stitches to work into. Just put 1 single crochet into each of those stitches and then make your way all the way around. And I'll meet you back when we've made our way all the way around and slip stitched into our chain space. We are back. Our single crochet row for the collar is all finished up. Now our following row is going to be a half double crochet row. So once we have slip stitched into that chain space, simply chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch, and then I'll meet you back at the end of this row. So our half double crochet row is all finished up. Now we're going to do 1 front and back post double crochet row to get some nice ribbing before we get started on the hood. So right after we have slip stitched into that second chain that we made to close off this half double crochet row, let's chain 2 and flip our work. So getting started on this row, we're all going to yarn over. We're going to find the first half double crochet from our previous row, not counting that chain 2. And we're going to insert our hook with a front post double, so go ahead and insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we're going to do a back post double crochet, so yarn over. We're now going to bring our hook underneath our work and over that following half double crochet body. So in through that gap, over that next half double crochet, and through the other side, yarn over, pull through. And from here, yarn over, pull through 2, and this is a front and back post double crochet. Now let's do this one more time, a little bit faster. So yarn over. Our next stitch is a front post double crochet. So pull through 2, and then our back post double crochet. So yarn over. Bring our hook underneath our work, over the body of that next half double, through the other side. Pull through 2, and pull through 2. And that's it. We're going to continue to do our front and back post double crochets all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left, slip stitch into that second chain that we made, and then do a chain up of 1 and cut. So I am back, and I am all finished up with my collar. I did do a chain up of 1 and cut, and now we're going to get started on our hood. So first things first, we're going to want to insert our stitch markers where we want the edges of our hood to be. Now you guys can have it touch, cross over, whatever you want. I want mine to be roughly about where my collarbone is. So I just inserted my stitch markers into those stitches. We just want to make sure that we have an even number of stitches from stitch marker around the back to our other stitch marker. Now from here, we're going to be inserting our 6mm hook and making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, into the left stitch marker stitch because our Alpine stitches is not reversible. Then we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook. And what we're going to do from here is pull through and do a chain 2. This chain 2 does not count as a stitch. We just want the height, and we're going to start with a half double crochet row. So we're all going to yarn over and start by inserting our hook into that same stitch that our chain 2 is in, so our same stitch marker stitch, with a half double crochet, and that's it. We're going to be putting 1 half double crochet into every stitch, working our way around the back until we reach our other stitch marker. Our first half double crochet row for our hood is finished. Now we're going to do another half double crochet row. So from where we're at, just chain 2, flip our work, 1 half double crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way around. We are back. We have just finished up our second half double crochet row for our hood, and now we can get started on the Alpine stitch detail. So the Alpine stitch detail is going to be done pretty much the same way as all of our other ones. We're going to start with a half double crochet. So it's all chain 2 and flip our work. Yarn over, inserting our hook into that last stitch from our previous row with 1 half double crochet. Now yarn over, preparing for a front post double crochet. Since we're working on row 3, we're going to be inserting our hook into our previous odd number row, which is our row 1. We're going to find that first half double crochet, not that chain 2. Insert our hook underneath the body of that half double crochet. Through the other side, pull through, pull up nice and tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. And now from here, we're going to continue to do our Alpine stitches all the way around. Our last stitch should be a front post double crochet, so I'll meet you back so that we can do that one because it will be combined with a half double crochet. We have made our way all the way around with our row 3. Now we're going to finish off this row with the last stitch that we have. It should be a front post double crochet for everyone, but to make sure that that last stitch is nice and secure, we are going to be combining it with a half double crochet. So per usual, let's all yarn over. We are then going to find the last stitch from our row 1, insert our hook underneath that last stitch and through the other side. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through. When we have those 3 loops, we're going to pull up nice and tall, yarn over, and pull through 2. When we have those 2 loops on our hook, we are going to yarn over and then insert our hook into the last stitch from our previous row. This is mine right here. So let's insert our hook into that last stitch, yarn over, pull through. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, just yarn over, pull through all 3, and now our row 3 is complete. Now to get started on our row 4, chain 2, flip our work, and do our half double crochet row all the way around. Just as a quick tip, for every row that we have all the way up until we get the height that we need, we're going to have the same amount of stitches as the first row that we had for our hood. We are back. We have just finished up our first 4 rows for our hood, and now we're going to get started on our second alpine stitch row, and it's going to be done pretty much the same way as all of our other alpine stitch details, so I'm just going to talk you guys through it. So since we just finished up our half double crochet row, we're all going to chain 2, flip our work. Every alpine stitch row is going to be worked into our previous alpine stitch row, and our stitches are still going to be staggered. So since the first stitch that we have for our previous alpine stitch row was a half double crochet, insert into that half double crochet with a front post double crochet, and half double crochet into that next stitch. We're going to continue that, making our way all the way around. The last stitch for this row should be a half double crochet, and then it's going to be a repeat of these rows. We're going to continue to repeat rows 2 through 5 until we get the height of the hood that we need, so we're going to stop right at the crown of our head. We're going to make sure that these 2 edges don't touch each other on the top of our head because we're going to have a middle portion to keep it from pointing up. So I'll meet you guys back right after an alpine stitch row. I am back with the height of my hood. I have a total of 37 rows, and that's just about 10.5 inches or 27 centimeters. And now what we're going to do from here is the middle portion of our hood. So we're going to need to insert our stitch markers into some places. Now this number is going to be a little bit different for everyone, but all we want to do is insert our stitch marker into a stitch that is in multiples of 3 from both ends. And we do want each of these sections that we have, so the outer, the middle, and the other outer section is roughly the same amount, but it doesn't need to be exact, so you can just go ahead and eyeball this because we don't want our hood to be too shallow or too deep. So all I did was inserted my stitch marker into the 21st stitch from the outer edge on both sides. From the outer edge to my stitch marker, it's roughly 6.5 inches or 17 centimeters, and I did do a chain up of 1 and cut right after my last row. Now let's flip our work over so that we're looking at the detail of our hood, and then we can get started on doing the middle portion. So now that our work is flipped over, we're going to get started on our first half double crochet row. So what we're going to do is insert our hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our right stitch marker, working towards the outer edge. So this is my stitch that I have that's right next to my stitch marker. Taking a look towards the right, I inserted my hook into that available stitch. We are then going to insert our yarn onto our hook and pull through. Now from here, we're going to get started on our half double crochet row. And all we're going to do from here is our first half double crochet row. So we're all going to yarn over. We're going to be working towards the middle, and we're all going to start by skipping that stitch marker stitch. So we're going to skip 1, and then into that following available stitch, insert with our first half double crochet. So just go ahead and insert your hook into that next available stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and from here continue with 1 half double crochet into every stitch until we reach our following stitch marker. We have made our way across with our first half double crochet row. We have stopped at the stitch right before our stitch marker stitch on the left, and now we're going to connect it into the base, which is on the other side of our stitch marker. So what we're going to do is skip that stitch marker stitch and then into that following available stitch into the base, slip stitch it into there. And now our first row is complete. We are going to be working our way up to the following row, and our following row is going to be another half double crochet row. So we're going to slip stitch up the next 2 available stitches. So there is 1, and then there is 2. None of those slip stitches into the base count as a stitch, and let's flip our work. Our work is flipped, and all we're going to do from here is yarn over, insert our hook into that last stitch from our previous row with a half double crochet. So yarn over, pull through everything, making sure that we're not working into any of those slip stitches, and continue with 1 half double crochet into every stitch. And as a really quick tip, we should have the same amount of half double crochets as that first half double crochet row that we just did. We've made our way down. Our row 2 for the middle portion of our hood is finished, and now we're going to slip stitch it into the base. So closing off any even number row, we're going to be counting up the next 2 available stitches into the base because we started off this row by slip stitching up the next 2 stitches. We want the beginning and the end of every row to be the same. So count up 1, count up 2. Slip stitch into that second stitch into the base. And now from here we're going to get started on our Alpine stitch rows. So getting started on any odd number row, we're going to slip stitch up just 1 available stitch. None of those slip stitches count as a stitch, and flip our work. Getting started on our row 3 or our first Alpine stitch row, yarn over and insert our hook into that last stitch from our previous row that is not our slip stitches with a half double crochet. Then we're going to yarn over, preparing for front post double crochet, and since we're working on row 3, we are going to be working into our row 1, which is our first half double crochet row that we did, and we're going to find that second available half double crochet. This is my first, it's right next to my stitch marker. Here's my second. Insert your hook underneath that second half double crochet, pull through, and per usual, pull up tall, pull through 2, and our Alpine stitches is going to be the same from here on out. So yarn over, skip a stitch from our previous row, half double crochet into the next, yarn over, insert your hook with a front post double crochet, and continue on with our Alpine stitch row until we don't have any more stitches left. And as a quick tip, again, we should have the same amount of stitches as our previous rows. We've made our way down with our first Alpine stitch row, and now we're going to connect it into the base. Now connecting any odd number row, we're going to be slip stitching just into that next available stitch into the base, because when we got started on this row, we slip stitch up just 1 stitch. So into that next available stitch into the base, insert your hook with a slip stitch. That's going to be how we close off every odd number row. And from here, our following row is going to be a half double crochet row. So since it's an even number row, slip stitch up the next 2 available stitches, flip your work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch. We have made our way down with our row 4 or our half double crochet row. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So connecting any even number row, we're going to slip stitch into that second available stitch into the base. There's 1, there's 2, insert with a slip stitch, and now our even number row is finished. From here, just slip stitch up 1 stitch and flip our work. And from here, we're going to do our following Alpine stitch row, remembering that each of our Alpine stitch rows stitches need to be staggered from the previous row, and then a half double crochet row in between. We're going to continue to do this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. I'm back, and I have just finished up the middle portion of my hood. I don't have any more stitches left to work into. It should have all worked out evenly, so I did a chain up of 1 and cut. Now we're just going to single crochet along the edge of our hood to clean it up. So I'm just going to talk you guys through that because it's pretty simple. We're all going to start by inserting our same 6mm hook into that next available stitch into our collar. Then we're going to have some side rows to work into. So just alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, 1 single crochet into every stitch, and then continue to alternate, making our way all the way down. Then slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base and do a chain up of 1 and cut. And then I'll meet you back so we can finish up with our bottom band. So we are back, and we're going to finish off our piece with a bottom band. So we're all going to start by making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and we are going to be inserting our same 6mm hook into any one of the side rows along the bottom of our piece. Then we're going to do a single crochet row. So go ahead and insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And all we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So this is my first side row right here. I'm going to insert my hook in through that top loop with 1 single crochet. Into my following side row, insert with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and then there's 2, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way around. When we run into some regular stitches, put 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then slip stitch into that chain space. So our single crochet row along the bottom of our piece is finished. Now from here, we're all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for the bottom to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 10. So now that we have our chain, we are going to block off that last chain and do a chain 3. Now that chain 3 does not count as a stitch, that is our turning chain. We're all going to yarn over, preparing for a double crochet, and we're all going to insert our hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the 4th chain from our hook, with a double crochet. And continue with 1 double crochet into every chain. So now that we put one double crochet into every chain, we're going to connect it into the base. So all we're going to do is count up the next 2 available stitches. So here's 1, here's 2. Slip stitch into that second stitch to close off our row 1, and that slip stitch does not count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up the next 2 available stitches. So there's 1, and then there's 2. Those slip stitches don't count as a stitch either. Flip our work and put 1 back loop double crochet into every stitch, and that's pretty much it. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I will meet you back so we can seam everything together. We've made our way all the way around with our bottom band. We don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're just going to seam it together. This is going to be a single crochet seam, so let's all make sure that our work is flipped wrong side out. Then all we're going to do is insert our hook into that first available stitch into the front panel, and also into that first available stitch into the back panel, single crochet, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. We are back and we have just finished up seaming our bottom band and we are all done. Last thing we're going to have to do is weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye.